could do something about New Orleans, right? You know a lot about New Orleans.
Congrats.
No, I don't want anything to do with New Orleans again. It keeps luring me back into the city. It's mock draft season on TheRinger.com. Welcome to our own mock draft 1.0. We just got the results of the NBA lottery. All right, let's start right from the top. The New Orleans Pelicans, a team I know quite well. Spent some time down there. This is pretty incredible in terms of just like possible outcomes from the lottery. This has to be up there in terms of just pure chaos when you think about how it trickles down to Anthony Davis and then just the rest of the NBA pretty much. But let's start with who we have at the top. I think there's gonna be a lot of debate with this one.
Yeah.
But Danny, give me your personal opinion, who you think should go #1 overall.
So New Orleans, like, the city likes a star, right?
I mean, yeah, if they have heard of that basketball player.
Oh yeah, so I think the star here is a guy named Zion Williamson.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's like if you took like the Hulk and then you gave him like Thor's powers and then you taught that mythological creature how to play basketball.
Clearly Zion, #1. We think Zion is gonna go to the New Orleans Pelicans. I think there's some scuttlebutt whispers in the air, perhaps unverified, that maybe he might force his way to wherever he wants. He hasn't technically declared for the draft. We'll see how that all plays out. But presuming that he does end up going there, what do you think will happen with Anthony Davis? Specifically, what would you do if you were Anthony Davis? Would you wanna play with Zion or would you wanna get out of there no matter what?
I mean, if I were personally Anthony Davis, I would probably want to stay, but it doesn't appear that's the case with him. I think he still wants out. He still wants to play with LeBron. He still wants to play elsewhere, literally anywhere else. Not literally anywhere else. Probably like 2 locations.
Probably not Memphis.
Yeah, right. But I think in Zion Williamson, you, especially from the Pelicans' perspective, I think new GM David Griffin has all the cards that he needs.
Right.
To kind of lay out a team of his design however he wants. There's no real rush to trade Anthony Davis anymore because he has a guy in Zion's quality who could very well change the way, you know, basketball's played, given his unique combination of skills and athleticism and girth and size and power. He's gonna be able to have him under team control for the next, what, 8-9 years?
Yeah,
and so
2 contracts essentially.
There's no real pressure for him to force a trade right now. So if Anthony Davis doesn't want to play, he won't have to in a year, but in the interim, look, this is gonna be pretty fun.
Yeah, it's interesting because on the one hand, I would love to see Anthony Davis play with Zion.
Yeah.
I think they complement each other perhaps better than anyone in the league could complement Anthony Davis. On the other hand, I do kind of want Zion to grow and become who he is before he has to worry about conforming essentially to another superstar. And I think in Alvin Gentry's system, if Drew stays there, if you have a lot of young players, all of a sudden that's the most interesting young team in the league. And Zion is the guy, if he's playing with Davis, just as had he gone and played with KD and Kyrie Irving, he's the 3rd guy. And for a little while at the very least, he's figuring things out within that context, which is not great. All right, let's move on to #2 in the draft. This is pretty much the big inflection point. We know what's gonna happen at #1. The Grizzlies, clearly they're pivoting to a new era, but they still have Mike Conley there, the last vestige of the grit and grind era. I think the 2 guys everyone's talking about, RJ Barrett or Ja Morant.
Right.
Where do they go?
For me, I would go RJ Barrett out of Duke, 6'7" wing, has shown the ability to be a lead ball handler, lead creator. Not a great shooter, but it's definitely something that he can improve upon, and he definitely wasn't shy about shooting it at Duke. Attempted like 5-6 per game. Shot it at a terrible percentage, but still showing the ability and showing the confidence and having that not waver when your shot isn't going down. That's a big, sign of someone who's comfortable with that kind of pressure.
Right. I think the big factor that the Grizzlies have to consider here is Jaren Jackson Jr. Seems like he is their next guy.
Absolutely.
So do you think RJ fits better than perhaps Morant, or do you not even factor that in? Is it just best player available?
I think Morant fits better with Jaren Jackson Jr. theoretically. Basically, what we're looking at with Ja Morant is a very high IQ, very high level athlete who has a very slight frame, and really doesn't project to have as much versatility. And I think that's where my line is being drawn. We're talking about RJ Barrett, who at this point can probably play 3 positions in terms of being a lead ball creator, being a wing at either spot, and potentially down the line, he has the body to be a small ball 4. And for me, when I look at it, I don't see Ja Morant as necessarily a transcendent prospect. And so for me, I'm looking for a guy who can kind of fill the gaps and who is still immensely talented to kind of ease this rebuilding stage and allow the Grizzlies to kind of see what they have.
Yeah,
really.
And Barrett, a guy we thought would potentially be the number one pick,
absolutely.
Around this time, perhaps last year. So you wonder if he gets out of under from Zion Williamson's kind of shadow, if he becomes that sort of prospect yet again. So that's an interesting what if for the Grizzlies if they go down that path. Now the Knicks, a team that who knows if they'll keep the pick. A little disappointing that they fall this far, but if it is a 3-player draft,
right,
it does feel like they're in prime position here. So if we have RJ going 2, is it as clear as Ja going 3?
It is. I think the team is just starved for star power, and this is obviously clearly if they keep the pick.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. Let's say they get KD and Kyrie. If you have Kyrie, can Kyrie play with Morant?
Yes, but obviously it's not ideal. Kyrie has shown the ability in Boston to be able to play off the ball, to be able to come off, screens, come off dribble handoffs and create for himself, like, fine. But you look at Ja Morant, who's not a great shooter, who's a terrific athlete, terrific passer, sees the floor very well. He's probably big enough to cover maybe smaller 2s, but you're not looking at a very ideal lineup there.
Well, what happens if, let's say, Kyrie is there? And the Knicks, let's say, theoretically, they don't try to trade that pick, which I think that's a pretty good spot for Anthony Davis. If Davis does ultimately want out, Ja Morant and Zion Williamson is not a bad combo to start your franchise over with. Would you go elsewhere on the board? Is it like a Cam Reddish? Is it a Darius Garland?
That's a tough one, just because when you're all the way up at number 3, it becomes really hard to be like, yeah, let's draft for fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just get a dude who might be able to be another guy next to KD and Kyrie. It's like, it's hard. That's a hard sell. So what I would do in that case is, if you are just completely positive that you have Kyrie and KD locked up.
Which, by the way, the draft is happening first, so you better be positive.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you trade down, get a lower pick and a veteran player. That's a possibility as well. Trading down and acquiring a young player who would be able to step in right away alongside a bunch of stars.
Filling out all the rest of the roster, which, as we've seen in the past, when you get a big 3, it's all about who you can surround them with. All right, let's move on to 4 here. The Lakers making probably the most dramatic jump of the lottery. Really had, I think, sub 10% odds here. Really no chance, and yet here they are at 4, and all of a sudden things could be really different for the future of LeBron James. Let's say they keep this pick as well. That's another team that could be in the Anthony Davis Derby. Who would they go? Who would fit best with LeBron?
I think the person who would fit best with LeBron is the person that is part of LeBron's agency, which is Cam Reddish. You look at Cam Reddish, and this is something that I noticed during the ESPN broadcast yesterday. Cam Reddish is fucking huge.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
He is a 3, a wing, but he might have, he might be 6'9". He looks about 230, 235. The dude is huge.
And he's probably a better athlete than Barrett?
No.
No? Wow.
I
don't know anything.
Yeah, Cam Reddish is a fluid athlete. He's very smooth with the ball.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Fluid. Yeah.
He shows a lot of theoretical skills that you would want out of literally any type of wing that you could possibly have in the NBA.
Right.
He has a very nice shooting stroke from 3-point range.
Which the Lakers need.
Yeah, create with the ball in his hands. He actually played point guard a little bit in high school. And just when you have that size, you're afforded a lot more opportunities than someone with a much slighter build because there's a lot more margin for error.
So he's a much more raw prospect, which as we've seen, LeBron has a lot of tolerance for, just waiting for these guys to develop and become who they are. That's an interesting possibility. I guess we'll see if they even keep that pick. Doesn't seem like that timeline fits with LeBron, who only has 2 years left on his deal before he has an option in that 3rd year. Now the Cavs at 5, probably one of the biggest losers of the draft. They spent the entire year losing all those games, giving Colin Sexton all those shots, even though he didn't deserve them, and all they got out of it was the 5th pick. Can they get a guy that can really make a difference going forward? I guess here's an opportunity to talk about the next tier of guys.
Exactly.
What are you getting from 5 on? Is it a starter?
I mean, ultimately, at this point, it really depends on the type of team that you've constructed and the type of player that you need to kind of round out whatever it is you've built. So when it comes to the Cavaliers, they're at this 5th position in a draft that's like not deep, not talent rich. You're sitting in a terrible position because you're just like, great. Okay, well, we have Kevin Love, who's maxed out and has been injured for the past half decade.
Yeah, but I don't know if you've seen his Instagram lately. His fits are proper.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so you have Colin Sexton, who shot reasonably well. He shot 40% from 3, hit a bunch of mid-range jumpers. Kind of doesn't know how to play the pick and roll.
Yeah. There's Sauce Castillo. He's still there.
Sure. And so that's
a lot of talent.
And so when you have a team like that doesn't really have a discernible identity, you kind of are forced to look into guys that can maybe do a little bit of everything and you just kind of throw it on the wall and see what sticks.
So they're looking probably best player available.
Yeah.
They're not at the point where they need to start fitting guys around here, and Culver perhaps has the most upside?
Yeah, I really like Jarrett Culver. He had kind of an up and down NCAA tournament, didn't necessarily show
Texas Tech
star potential, I would say, but I think he measured very well in the combine. He was listed at 6'5" for the entire year, according to his school website. Almost 6'7".
According to his school. Yeah, right.
Almost 6'7" at the combine. So that shows like good wing size. He's a do-it-all player, very smart player. Honestly, if a team gave him a chance, he could probably be a lead creator.
You heard it here first, guys. Jarrett Culver, a little bit taller than we thought. All right, let's move on to the Phoenix Suns at 6. This is the point in the draft where, honestly, as an NBA fan and not much of a draft fan, I don't know most of these guys. So we can go through these guys a little bit more quickly. The Suns, another team that spent the entire year tanking, and here they are at 6. So congratulations. So who would you go with to pair with maybe Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton?
I think they're definitely going to be looking for a point guard to kind of lessen Devin Booker's workload, and I think Darius Garland is probably the most highly regarded point guard prospect on the board. He kind of takes that Trae Young mold and you know,
takes it to another level.
No, takes it to about
A level.
A level.
All right.
Maybe not higher, probably lower. The dude played 5 games in college.
All right.
Before tearing his meniscus.
The next Tyler Johnson, perhaps?
What?
The Bulls at 7 here. I don't know what to do with the Bulls. They have a lot of giant guys who are like slightly skilled.
Who need the ball to be successful.
Sure.
And so you need a point guard who can maybe give them the ball.
Because it's not Chris Dunn.
It's not Chris Dunn. And I think right here you're going for the best point guard available, and that's Coby White.
Okay.
Coby White was a freshman out of North Carolina. He plays a little bit erratically, but he's 6'5", has great size, can shoot the 3. He's a little bit raw as a point guard prospect, but when you look at the Bulls and the type of team that they're building right now, they're all pretty young anyway, so I think there's time for him to kind of grow into that role.
Okay, and then we have the Hawks at 8, another team that slid down. Has a lot of already young guys in the mix here.
Right.
Which guy maybe perhaps rounds out what they have in Trae Young and John Collins and some of these other guys?
Yeah, I think DeAndre Hunter makes a lot of sense out of Virginia. He's a combo forward, 3-4. Big dude, strong dude, can shoot the 3, can defend probably 1 through 5 in the NBA, which is exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah, and maybe he could hit the weight room with John Collins, another guy who's a little swole. All right, Washington Wizards at 9. This is a pretty toxic environment, so RIP to whoever actually gets drafted here. But which young lad are we sending into the inferno?
Let's go with SEKOU Doumbouya.
Okay.
Who out of France, you know, the Washington Wizards have had a lot of success with Jan Mahimi. He is not Jan Mahimi. He's actually another combo forward. Great athlete, can run the floor, 6'9", 230. When you talk about guys like this, you're looking at a lot of raw potential, and you're looking at a guy like Pascal Siakam as a kind of template for them to kind of grow into.
Yeah.
That's the type of player you're looking at.
Can you say his name one more time?
SEKOU DOUMBOUYA.
Love it. All right, let's go with the Hawks again at 10. Who is going to play and fill out around Kevin Huerter? That's the big question.
Huerter?
Huerter.
It's Huerter. You know, at this point, because they have 2 picks in the lottery, you're really just filling out whatever other roster needs you have.
Yep.
So Jackson Hayes out of Texas is a guy. Rim runner, classic, you know, Clint Capella-y, bouncy, can catch literally any ball.
New Jarrett Allen?
Not as much touch. He's a lot more raw than Jarrett Allen is. But, you know, Trae Young needs another lob target, you know?
Sure, who doesn't? Let's go to the next spot, number 11, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
This is actually my favorite pick.
Okay.
Like, I think whoever picks this guy, whoever has the balls to pick this guy, will have the steal of the draft.
Okay, tell me.
Brandon Clarke out of Gonzaga. He was probably the 2nd best player in college last year. He is an anomaly. He's 6'8", has like Sean Marion, Pascal Siakam skills. He's one of the best rim protecting 6'8" dudes I've ever seen.
So wait, why would he drop this far in the draft then?
Because it's hard to make sense of what type of player he can be at 6'7", 6'8", when he really kind of projects to be a center. But that's the thing. If the Wolves select him, he covers for Karl Anthony Towns' deficiencies so well. I think it's a perfect match. I think this is like a marriage made in heaven.
Wow, so you're just gonna push Taj Gibson out the door there? R.I.P. Taj.
There comes a time in every man's life.
I think there's a time regardless of who they pick at that one. Number 12, the Charlotte Hornets. A team, again, is just whatever they do, they're pretty much screwed. So who else can we throw in there?
Bol.
Oh, I love this guy.
Yeah. 7'3", 7'4" center who literally shot 50% from 3 in his limited time at Oregon. Has ball handling skills that really should not exist for a dude that big.
Yeah, he got hurt, so he only played a couple games. Serious like
health scares in terms of how his body is gonna be able to hold up.
Yeah, but look at what happened with the Nuggets. Like they take risks on Malik Beasley and some other guys that were injured at the time, and if they can clear them, it pays off in the end.
Absolutely, and Charlotte is just in need of excitement, of
literally anything.
A name to attach to their team.
Yeah, and Bol has that name. He has it twice actually. Miami Heat at 13. Who else can we throw in to replace Dwayne Wade, to perhaps get another jersey from Dwayne Wade?
You know what? A guy who plays the same position, Romeo Langford out of Indiana. One of the best finishing guards this past season in college. Just really soft touch around the rim, really knows how to slice and dice in there.
Love the dice.
Really like confident ball handler. He can work on his jump shot as literally any wing can, but he has the confidence to be that kind of go-to scorer. And really, you need to watch some of the layups this guy can make.
I love layups. That's what I look for in my basketball viewing experience. Thank you. Number 14, let's finish the lottery here with who else? The Boston Celtics. Who can join what seems to be a potentially complicated situation in a perhaps post-Kyrie era?
I think the Celtics are in a position where they can gamble a little bit. And so I think we're going with NASIR Little out of North Carolina. He was one of the top recruits of last season. He was right up there with RJ Barrett and Zion and Cam Reddish. But he came off the bench in North Carolina, did not have a good season, but really picked it up in the NCAA tournament. He's 6'6", great athlete, super strong, can probably play the 4, and he has a 3-point stroke that's really kind of coming along. And so he basically fits the Celtics mold. You have a switchable 3-and-D guy who projects to be an outstanding athlete even at the NBA.
Yeah, and the Celtics, they'll probably try to move up in this draft, and they won't, and then we'll hear about it for the next 2 months. All right, that's it for Mock Draft 1.0. Be on the lookout for a few more of these videos leading up into the actual draft in June. Also check out the Ringers draft guide, Danny and
Please.
KOC. We're spending a lot of time.
The kids are starving.
A lot of
Click it.
A lot of blood. We will see you next time. Go Pels.